The sun was setting in the city of Rosedale, leaving the autumn hues of dusk behind to welcome the oncoming night. Somewhere in the mountain range that bordered the city's north side, a cool summer breeze picked up and drifted down, winding its way along the deserted streets and crowded sidewalks, stirring the weeds that choked the vacant lots and coming into the countless open windows to lull the people within to sleep. On the outskirts of the city, in the shadows of the back alleys, Shelley Miller sat in her shanty and watched the sky above her darken. The breeze found its way to her and froze the perspiration that clung to her grimy skin. She shuddered, but only at the suddenness of it. The external discomfort was barely noticeable beneath the roiling nausea in her stomach and the stinging aches in her muscles. Her collection of antidepressants and uppers, either stolen or bargained for, were gone, as were the caffeine pills and energy drinks that she used to stave off sleep and the nightmares that came with them. Now she was facing the withdrawal.
This is what I deserve for using that shit. Ugh, I feel like I'm dying,
she thought to herself, moaning low in her throat as her stomach cramped painfully. No sooner than the thought entered her mind, and she was on her knees, mud and puke squelching between the fingers of her left hand as she struggled to fight the vomit that crept up her throat. She lost the struggle a moment later. When she was finished heaving, she fell backwards onto the pavement, her throat and stomach aching, and her vision swimming.
What if I die here tonight? Will anybody find me before I start rotting? Or will it take a while? Maybe I'll be another one of those bodies that some poor kid finds when they're out playing. I don't even have my dog tags anymore. What if they don't even figure out who I am? Shuddering,
she raised her left hand to her face. Muscle memory brought the stump where her right used to be to her cheek. She quickly pulled her hand back and looked at the bony knob that peeked out from her tattered sleeve, looking as white as a tooth in the moonlight. She adapted somewhat to using her left hand, but she doubted that she'd ever get used to the loss of its partner. Even now, after a whole year, the sight, the numbness, and the odd weightlessness of it made her skin crawl.
Well, at least I don't need a weather station anymore.
The thought was meant to alleviate her mood, but the bit of dark humor soured quickly and added to the weight in her chest.
Maybe I should end it right now. Body's failing me,
she thought, her eyes turning from her stump to the shanty and the knife that lay within, buried beneath issues of The Sun and the Rosedale Prowler. It was a K-bar, a massive serrated thing that she held onto after the seemingly endless interrogations and media uproar over what had happened. The blade itself was warped, blackened, and melted along its edge, but it could still cut. Shelley stood up slowly and shakily and moved towards the shanty, feeling every step reverberate painfully through her head. Her stomach cramped painfully, making her gag. Shaking it off warily, she ducked into her shanty. Her questing hands passed over tattered blankets and old foot wrappers before finally coming to rest at the K-bar's hilt. She pulled it from its makeshift sheath and held it at face level, staring at her warped reflection and its stained blade, taking in the sunken eyes and hollow cheeks, the greasy red hair, and the colorless lips.
Probably better this way. No way I make it to next winter. I can't keep fighting. I'm out of my pills, all my shit's gone. I'm alone.
She muttered aloud, her voice raspy with disuse.
Come on. I'm alone. My parents hate me. My friends hate me. I deserve to die.
The blade wavered, but didn't move.
I'm stalling.
The blade stayed where it was. Shelley's arm felt like solid lead. She dropped the knife, letting out a short, mirthless bark of laughter as she did.
What the fuck is wrong with me? It's only my life. Just me, no one else. I won't hurt anyone else if I do this, so why don't I? What do I have to live for?
As if to answer her, something moved outside the shanty. Shelley stiffened, feeling the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end as her skin grew colder. She turned and looked out at the darkness beyond the narrow door, which seemed so much more profound than she had expected.
I should be seeing the wall opposite of me. I need the knife.
She reached down, not taking her eyes off the entryway, as her fingers found the hilt again.
Whoever's out there should leave. I don't have any money or booze or whatever else. Plus, I've got a knife.
She called out, hoping that she'd be heeded. She wasn't. A pale blur shot out of the darkness, moving faster than she anticipated. It caught her in the temple and sent her staggering. The knife fell from her hand, and still wondering what had hit her, she fell into unconsciousness. Shelley felt like she was dreaming. She tried to move, but her body felt like vapor, numb and insubstantial. She was gliding down a darkened corridor. Dim lights hung above her like stars in a slate gray sky, their light revealing patches of mildew and thin cracks that seemed alive with tiny spiders. To either side of her were doors that had once been bright red, but had now faded to the colors of dried blood. She could hear sounds coming from behind some of them, muffled thumps and groans.
Another nightmare. Well, at least this one isn't about Iraq. No sand, no silence, no village, no shadows. No. Don't think about it. Don't ruin this dream. And this is a dream. It has to be. It has to be.
She shut her eyes and breathed deeply, trying desperately to calm herself. The sudden weight on her neck forced her eyes open and undid the progress that she had started to make. She opened her eyes and found herself staring up at a pale, ashen face that had been covered by a surgical mask and cap. Two eyes, silver gray and surrounded by dark, wrinkled flesh, stared back at her. The woman, she guessed it was female, didn't speak, leaving the creaking of the gurney and the rasp of wheels on the floor to fill the silence.
Dreams are supposed to represent something, so what are you? Are you the thing that takes me to hell or something like that? Maybe an executioner?
She asked, feeling brave. The image of Charon ferrying a person down the river Styx came vividly to her mind. The eyes crinkled at the edges. The pale woman was smiling at her beneath the mask. Shelley made to ask another question, but then the smell hit her, cool and rank like gasoline or meat that had been kept long past its expiration date.
You can't smell things in a dream. This isn't a dream,
she thought, a cold weight settling on her stomach. Everything came crashing down on her, choking off any reaction, leaving her in stunned, horrified silence. She didn't scream as the woman pulled down her mask to reveal a lipless mouth with large yellow teeth, like those of a baboon. She didn't scream when that mouth unhinged and the cold stink of a slaughterhouse wafted over her. She didn't scream when that long tongue rasped against her cheek, leaving behind a trail of warm saliva that hardened like glue. She didn't scream when the ride ended, and she was hauled up and thrown into a small concrete room. She didn't scream when the door was slammed shut behind her. She only stared ahead, her mind roaring like a wildfire inside her skull, trying to piece together what she had seen, trying to correlate any facts, any bits of scientific know-how that she could still remember that would explain what she'd seen. But all she could think of was that wrinkled gray, lipless maw with its blackened gums and long canines and those unblinking eyes.
It's like Iraq all over again.
She thought, feeling helpless laughter bubble up inside her throat at the memories that were pushing their way out of the darkness. A blazing, cloudless day, quiet save for the drone of the heat and the whistle of the wind across the sand. The gun and gear hanging off of her body, threatening to pull her down. The smell of sweat and oil stinging her nose. Shelley shook and clenched her teeth, looking around the room, trying to keep the terror from overtaking her, trying to focus. Her eyes roved about the cell, taking in the small, filthy mattress in the corner nearest her, the mesh-covered fluorescent light that flickered above her, and the hole in the center of the room, which she supposed to be a toilet. She stopped when she saw the thing slumped against the wall farthest from her. At first, she didn't know what she was looking at. The thing looked like a pile of raw meat, predominantly dark red in color, covered in a lacework of bright purple veins. Chains ran through steel rings in the walls that bind it tightly.
What the hell?
She muttered, venturing a few feet closer. When the more subtle details amidst the carnal mass became clearer, Shelley backed away, feeling her stomach rise. It was a skinned body, lying bound and quartered, with the ends of chains running through the stumps where its limbs had been.
Who is this, and why the hell is it here?
She thought as morbid fascination and horrified pity warred in her, adding more weight to her mental strain. She could see that they had left the head intact. The bare scalp gleamed white amidst the red of the exposed meat, as did the cheekbones and most of the jawbone. The lips were surprisingly intact, as were the eyelids, which seemed to be the only pieces of skin left on the whole body. At its level of mutilation, it was impossible for her to identify its gender, age, or race. It was just a mass of bare muscles, raw nerves, and bone.
Is this gonna happen to me?
The thought of having her skin peeled off in some dark cell, far from help, and where nobody who might have cared could hear her scream, was unbearable. It filled her with sadness and anger and a pure animal terror that threatened to tear her mind apart. She was so lost in the horror of imminent suffering that she almost didn't see the corpse twitch. Almost. With a choked gasp, she turned and watched as the thing's chest spasmed, rose, and then fell. The lips twitched, releasing a soft hiss, like a leaf being blown across the pavement. Then, with a shudder, they parted fully to reveal the tips of very white, very sharp teeth.
This isn't right. That's not possible.
Shelley muttered, wondering if she had lost her mind. At the sound of her voice, the body jerked again, and the head slowly turned towards her. The muscles bunched and twisted visibly as it did. Its eyes opened, blinking rapidly, then focused on her. Shelley turned with a scream that had been building since she had woken up, and threw herself at the door, pounding at it with fist and stump, and begging her inhuman captors for release or a quick death. She wasn't sure she cared which. As she beat the door, the skinless man watched, its green eyes full of curiosity and its mouth aching for the taste of blood and meat.